This video shows the critical steps to make a molded leather card case with raised and lined leather hardware. The inside pocket is molded 1/2 inch deep from 3 to 4 ounce vegetable tan strap leather, with a matching liner molded inside out to fit tightly inside the top, creating a very strong, lightweight pocket with the capacity for a dozen gift or payment cards. The top of the pocket has a raised and lined strip to add strength, and support for the pull tab latch hardware to rub against instead of a thread. The remaining layers of the case are cut from a side of vegetable tan leather split 2 to 3 ounce. The frame supports the pockets as well as the flat pull tab hardware. An added feature behind the pull tab is a hidden reinforced pocket created when the pull tab and keeper are shaped, raised and lined to fit together as part of the latch assembly. The back pocket is raised and lined with a double wide finger window, 1 inch high and 2 inches wide, to make ejecting your most used card easier. The dimensions of the case are 4 5/8 by 3 3/8 and about 1 inch deep. This is a very tough and durable case for an overall weight of only 76 grams. The total construction for this project took me a little bit more than 6 hours, not including the time involved in design and creation of all the jigs to make the case fit together very precisely with not very many obstructions to interfere with stitching holes lining up. The large edges on the 6-layer deep seams are finished to a hard painted turquoise finish to be bold and stand out against the range tan and forest green case colors. Olive green and orange 0.6 mm bonded nylon thread are used to complement the earth tone colors, and the surfaces of the case are finished to a smooth luster with a wax-based conditioner. Raw natural leather has a nice look to it, but if you want to add color, an airbrush is an excellent way to apply dye evenly. I use a Phoebe's product called EcoFlow and wear a mask and rubber gloves as a safety precaution. Then I let the leather dry completely, which is usually a few hours. I like to assemble the parts in stages, gluing and stitching the contours of the leather as I progress. So as I apply glue, it is important to control where it goes and to add pressure to the materials being glued to create contoured details with a strong bond. Using a raised and lined keeper glue-up jig allows me to make the raised and lined parts fit exactly. It is helpful to have the seams of the open side saddle stitched and ready to attach to the top of the pocket, using 2 sets of trap needles and threads, 1 for each side. As part of the design process, when I made the wet molds, I also made a unique workbench, a 1/16 of an inch smaller than the inside lining mold, to fit tightly underneath the bone dry molded parts. This little workbench allows me to cut out the opening and to make the punching and stamping of the molded and raised parts accurately and easier every time I use the molds. A punch pad and a stitching awl allows me to put stitching holes anywhere the needles can pass through from both sides to complete the saddle stitching. Molded parts are stretched and have the potential to recoil and change shape after molding, drying, and further processing. So rough cutting the pocket before other products are applied with a following trim cut to fit the pocket square during final assembly is a necessary step to think about before starting the project. Details matter, so all the complicated details to create raised and lined shapes pay off in the finished product. To make the raised area stand out on both sides of the pull tab, I glued 2 pieces of 3 to 4 ounce leather together to create a raise of 1/8 of an inch, and beveled the edges before gluing the lining in place. Then used a glue-up jig to press the pull tab flat and contour the raises with an assortment of burnishing and modeling tools. But my favorite tool for a flat seam is pincer pliers. This set came from Amy Roke. After stitching, the edges of the seam may have changed shape slightly, so burnishing the edges will help uniformly smooth them, hardening and aligning the edge in preparation of applying a nice painted finish. The pull tab includes a raised and lined area to reinforce a hidden pocket. Since the flap lid is usually closed, I like to glue the bend around the curve, then glue and stitch the top part of the flap. Then rough up the edge a bit where the pull tab will be attached and only glue the seam, leaving a little space behind the pull tab to make it move easier and create the hidden pocket. To install the finished molded pocket, glue it to the lining, then punch the stitching holes. Reverse angle stitching chisels are a luxury, allowing me to have the stitching holes line up when I punch holes for the reverse angled inside pocket seam. I like to use a flat surface instead of awkwardly punching through a deep wet molded pocket with an awl into an unsupported seam. Raised and lined parts add character and strength to the pocket parts while minimizing bulk. Adding raised wear leather around the finger window on the back pocket helps protect the threads around the window and provide a foot for the case to rest on. The raised leather areas are a 1/16 of an inch and glued in place first. Then the top stretched tightly around them to create a seam for stitches to follow along easily when the glue dries and the stitching holes are set. Preparing the edges, then painting them adds strength as well as improving the appearance of the edge. A roller pen type applicator is how I like to apply edge paint, and try to let a bead of paint stick to the edge in an even layer. If it does dry unevenly, I can always give a light sanding to flatten it out and apply a new layer of paint. Then use small pieces of plastic to raise the parts so the wet paint will not rub against the work surface. To install the raised and lined back pocket, rough up the edges and glue in place. A glue-up jig around the seam is necessary to create a flat seam for the thick edge. Then punch the stitching holes through with an awl, complete the stitching, and finish the edges. Applying dye carefully to the edge helps allow the edge paint to be applied with a uniform color to make the straight line of the edge paint stand out. The final conditioning is when the stiff building material is turned into a luxurious, soft to the touch leather case. I like to use a Phoebe's oil and wax product called Aussie and use paper towels to rub it in, allow it to absorb into the leather for at least 5 minutes, then remove the excess. A bone folder is an excellent tool to help open the back pocket a little bit, making it easier to condition inside the pocket. I will condition again in a few days after the conditioner has had a chance to be absorbed, then add more conditioner when needed. The conditioner will help stop the strap leather from cracking and provide a nice soft finish that allows the saddle leather to age gracefully as it is used, developing into a worn-in patina that improves with age.